All right, folks, key support points breaking down all over the place. It's a good time for Chart School. I'm going to bring in Alpha Trends CEO and founder Michael Shannon. Brian, I'm sorry. I'm all over the place. That's what happens when the market is breaking down like this, Brian. So the S&P 500, obviously, this thing is a beautiful chart. If you're short, it's made a perfect series of lower highs and lower lows. And, of course, it broke that 3666 number a lot of people were looking for. So is this the moment of truth? And if it is, what happens from here?
Well, Charles, I think it's a moment of truth, just like we saw with the previous lows. I mean, we have an established pattern, lower highs and lower lows, and that's the definition of a downtrend. So it's an important level where we might see the next bounce occur from in this general area, but I don't think it's going to be the bottom. In fact, the bottom is going to be a process that, I love the phrase, if they don't scare you out, they'll wear you out. It's not like the V-bottoms we've been accustomed to when we had easier monetary policy. In this case, I think we're going to see a longer term, back and forth basing that might take, I'm going to say 6 to 12 months at a minimum before we can really start to have confidence that these stocks and the markets can sustain an uptrend beyond just the bounces for traders.
So then how important is, for instance, the 200-day, not 200-week, 200-day moving average, and we start to break down from there? In this 6-month process, I mean, is there a possibility? I mean, how low do you think we could go? How vulnerable would we possibly be?
Well, I think first to tackle the 200-day moving average, our last rally, kind of peaked right at that 200-day moving average. Now we're coming all the way down to the 200-week simple moving average on the S&P 500. That's just a little bit below us. And that's a potential level where we might start to see that supply and demand kind of, shift balance, where some shorts start to cover and provide the initial support. Sideline cash maybe starts to nibble a little bit and we get less selling in here. But as far as how low it can go, that's really anyone's guess, Charles. I'm just interested in, waiting for the evidence of a turn and then trading it based on, the shorter term definition of trend. So if we start to flatten out a little bit and turn higher, well, then on a shorter term time frame, I want to see the higher highs and higher lows. And as long as we do that, then I can trade it on the long side for a bounce.
Right.
But once that little pattern gets broken, then I've got to move to the sidelines again and say, let's see what the next wave lower brings us.
So Brian, I got one more. I got a minute to go, but we've got the NASDAQ. Again, of course, same pattern with respect to lower highs and lower lows, except, it actually had a better performance post that June 16th low than the other major indices, and so far it's hanging in there. If we do hang in there and we start to turn higher, I mean, do you have to break through one of those? Do you have to break through a certain trend like we talked about, the new trend? I know you don't want to get ahead of yourselves, but a lot of our viewers are trying to look like, okay, when might we get that first kernel of hope?
Well, again, I think it's going to take time, and people need to reshift their psychology about how this is going to occur. That everyone's been looking for the bottom every time we see these deeper pullbacks this year, and no one has gotten it correct so far. NASDAQ down 34% from its high. The S&P down 25%. I think you just have to take it in chunks, and back to that 200-day moving average. I think you want to see that start to flatten out and then start to turn higher and prices get above that, and that's just going to take time. Yeah. It's, first we correct it through price and scare people out, and if they don't scare you out, they'll often wear you out during that sideways accumulation process. It's just looking bleak, Charles.
Brian, you know what? But you know what? You're being honest, and that's the clear message here. You got to have some patience and let the market give you the clear signal. Hey, appreciate you got some of the best work on the street, so I appreciate you sharing time with us. Thanks, Brian.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Charles.
Coming up, folks, the French